All right, everybody, welcome in to another Now We Know podcast for a first Friday with our pal Brian from Super7. And can you believe it? We are actually here chatting on the first Friday of the month. I think that it's been
best laid plans
forever.
of mice and men, right?
I know. But it actually worked out for this month. And there's a lot of fun, exciting things to talk about. But how do things go with you as we're officially in autumn now, the best season that there is?
Yeah. Oh, and September and October in San Francisco are just absolutely deliriously beautiful. We get what's called Indian summer here because our summers are actually kind of chilly, and it warms back up in fall, and so it's absolutely stunning outside. You know, I went out to grab lunch earlier, and I'm like, whoa! I need to be outside more.
Yeah.
I must do video.
I was going to say, not instead of sitting inside talking into a computer screen for an hour.
Exactly. Anyways, I got to talk to a guy about toys. It'll be all right.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad that the weather is nice there, and it's actually remained pretty warm here. We are officially, I think, next week finally shutting down the pool, but I didn't think that we were going to make it into almost mid-October with that. So it's been pretty good here. But
was that a humble brag there for the folks watching? Oh yeah, just me and the kids in the pool all the time.
Well, it's like having a pool here. It's like, okay, is it going to be just a few months out of the year or whatever? So it's like any excuse to stretch it out is a good one. So.
All right. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
But at the same time, I don't know. I'm ready for hoodies and soup and all of that fun stuff for the fall too. So bring it.
Shifting into soup mode.
Yeah, I'm transitioning into soup mode every September. That I want that to happen. But yeah. Well, so aside from being First Friday, it's also a red letter day around here.
Is that your transition?
Literal.
Look at that. He set that up in advance, folks.
Red letters that are on like this gigantic box that doesn't have anything in it, but there's the D&D symbol in that. I kept this because it's like I can't even fit the whole box in the frame. And while the box and the packaging is really cool, what we're really here to talk about and we're excited about is this 5-headed menace, beautiful dragon all at the same time, because Tiamat has finally landed, and I am stoked.
It is a long time coming, and it is a far cry from the original toy Tiamat. I think it's the Tiamat that all of us always wanted to have. Would that be correct?
Yeah, in terms of size and scope and wings that don't easily break or fall off, I've got to definitely agree with that.
Yeah. So I know it's it's always one of those things too where I feel like we're done with projects like 2 months before we really are, because like we're done, it's finished, it's shipping, but that still means it goes to the port and it goes onto a boat and then it goes through customs and it gets to the warehouse, then it gets shipped. So everybody else is like 2 months later, they're like, it's finally here. I'm like, that was here 2 months ago. We're done.
But I was I can't remember all the places that you showed off the prototype at, but it was definitely Comic-Con of last year. And I remember, being in the pop-up and seeing it. I was like, damn, that's a big dragon. That's cool. It's like, it's still though, once you get it into your own space and it like interacts with like the rest of your collection on your shelf, it's like, damn, this is a big dragon. But it's also, I don't know, it's a size that like didn't like completely destroy like the plans that I had in terms of putting on the shelf. It fit right in there. So
yeah, it's a tricky one. I think what we talked about in the beginning of like how we sized it, because one, you can find aspects in the show where she's 3 times taller than the kids, and then 20 times taller than the kids. Yeah, like it's everything in there, and then you have to be sort of responsible to what's on shelf, but also have a decent amount of space between the size of the figure and the size of Tiamat. I don't know. I'm really psyched on it. I think it turned out really well. All the articulation is there and everything.
She's hefty. She's sturdy. And it's like, oh, of course she is. She's a giant figure. But it's like, this is like for vinyl especially, it feels heavy, and I'm really pleased with the final paint deco too. Not that I didn't think that it wasn't going to be cool, but it's what's really struck me first and foremost after the whole size thing.
Yeah, and I think like I said, we talked before about seeing, so Tiamat did okay at pre-order, didn't do quite what we had hoped, so we brought in some extras, and we're hoping people pick them up. And that's really sort of the place where we decide if there's enough people that are getting in to kind of keep the line going. It's really tricky. We know that people don't like pre-orders. They like stuff in hand. But at the same time, are they really there for it? I know that there's a small group of people, small still being a decent amount, but a small group of people that are there for anything. But it's not really enough to keep the line going. And I'm not trying to go straight into Debbie Downer mode or whatever, but it's like, I'd love nothing more than to make more. But what we found so far with some of the other stuff where it didn't quite make it, we made some extras and brought them in so that people could pick it up after the fact. And then there just weren't those people there.
Yeah. Well, so that's, and when I shared my pictures of this, it was shared with me that you guys were going to have some available on the site, which I think is great because to your point, not everybody likes pre-orders. People like to see the final product and how it works in other people's pictures and in their spaces and whatnot. So I think that's cool. But you did know what the obvious next question was going to be, because I know I've asked it before and people continue to ask.
I would love nothing more than to make the rest of the kids and to make all the other weirdness that's from AD&D. I think we've talked about it before. Like, we have line lists for the next wave, and like, okay, you got to make Eric, and you got to make, Uni, and you got to make Dungeon Master, and you got to make Bobby, and you got to make Venger, and you got to make Venger's horse, and you got to make Venger's sister, and you got to, there's a lot of stuff to do here. It's just, are there enough people? And on either, so unfortunately, I'd have to say so far, it just hasn't been enough people to justify tooling those figures up. I would love nothing more than to do it, but we'll just kind of have to see. Like, if all of a sudden, now that I say all of a sudden, but if Tiamat comes in and all of a sudden, hey, people are like, okay, now that that's here, I am interested and I do want to buy, and it moves at a decent pace, then it's like, okay, that gives me a little bit more room to say, all right, we're going to try it yet again. But if it's one of those things where, we brought in these extra Tiamats and no one even wants those, like, and if you don't want Tiamat, I don't know what else I can give you that you don't want.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely true, and I think there's a combination of things going on here, because to your point, Tiamat as the centerpiece focal point, it's like, for a line like this, what else are you going to want, right? So you're definitely making the right point there. I think also, though, that your transparency with letting people know that it's like, hey, if this does do well, and it's like we've got a couple of the kids out already, the rest of the kids, which is completing the team, are moving into the priority spots, because I think that's another piece too, is that people want to commit knowing that, okay, if I commit, then the next pieces are going to be what I am wanting to complete as far as the team goes, right?
Yeah. And it's an interesting one, because so many people are like, yeah, if you wouldn't have come out so quickly on the heels of what Hasbro had put out, but it's also like, well, that was the opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? So there's not a lot I can do there, and I don't know. And I think for a lot of people, the itch may have been scratched with getting the other Hasbro ones, and for whatever your thoughts are on them, they're not really interested in what we're doing.
Yeah,
and they're not interested in getting deeper in the line. They just want the kids and nothing else.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, and for some people, you're right. That's completely fair. That satisfies that itch that they want. I think one of my things is that I have the whole Hasbro run, and they're fun. They're fun figures. I've really been trying to, like, when people ask me, it's like, well, if I have these, what's the difference? Like, there's a big difference here. Not only in size, but it's just like the extra portraits and the functional articulation and things like that are something that really got me with your guys' Ultimates version. So I think that's going to be another part too, is that people start to take more notice of things too, hopefully with Tiamat being out there, and really see that's the way to go, because as far as I'm concerned, Sheila particularly has some of the best alternate portraits of any Ultimates figure you guys have ever done. They're so expressive. They look great. So I really hope we can get the rest of the team in the same.
I really do too. And also just for their sake, shout out to Toy Hunters Hallow.
Yeah, they're always on
to
it.
The twins, because not that I say the twins, I didn't mean the twins, but to both of them for just pushing. If anybody is pushing to make sure that D&D has a home in 2026.
To your point, though, it's like, hey, if you didn't get Tiamat and you think you might want her, I'm glad that there's going to be opportunity on the website, but we talk about her for use with a Dungeons and Dragons collection, which, is, I guess, the obvious use, but just any type of fantasy, collections that you kind of have rolling around on your shelves out there. She works great in scale with lots of things, mythic legions and other things of that nature. So it's like, who doesn't want a 5-headed dragon like a fantasy line anyway? So come on.
Come on, jump on in. So, Tiamat's here for you.
Yeah. Come get yourself a Tiamat, and we'll see where we can go from there. So exciting stuff, but I'm definitely glad she's here, and she looks great just out of frame on top, kind of looking over the whole room where she's displayed for me now. So that's cool.
So she's flying around?
No, she's not flying.
The top shelf.
On the top shelf, yes. So
there we go. All right.
Made some space, and she fit perfectly. So I'm glad that happened. Right behind that other giant thing that you guys.
That thing that we made.
This other big thing that came out this year. That still came out this year, right? So
depends. It could have showed up in your door in either December or January.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, Tiamat it's like, how do you follow Tiamat up? Well, I think a good thing to follow her up with is new pre-orders for another line that is very near and dear to me. And I just happen to have your website pulled up because I want to show off and display what you guys recently announced for pre-sale, as it said on the site, is the 6th series, right? Or 7th series. 7th series of SilverHawks. And I have to say that I might have a little bias here, but I loved SilverHawks Series 2, but this might be one of the best lineups that you guys have done for any Ultimates wave, in my opinion, yet.
It's a really interesting thing, because as we were getting here, we're like, all right, we're getting, we're starting to get deep in the cuts of SilverHawks now. Are people going to be excited by this or not? We don't know. Yeah. I have a pretty good feeling around Melodia. I kind of know everybody's been waiting for Melodia. But after that, with hardware and tune and everything, you just don't know. And instead, the feedback has been overwhelmingly like, holy shit, I am into this wave. And I've been like, all right, that's really good news, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to your point, I think there are a lot of us that are like, holy crap, this whole wave is amazing. But even for individual things, it's like I said, you've got an essential bad guy who just happens to be my favorite SilverHawks character, period. You have a once and future Silverhawk in the line, and then a character that is a longtime fan favorite female character that has never had a figure before. So this just checks all the boxes for the lineup, and it's really fun.
Yeah, like I said, and when I say our surprise is like, as you get deeper into lines, you don't know how people are going to react. And at what point, no different than we were talking about with D&D really, is at what point do they go, cool, I have enough.
Yeah.
And this is a really interesting wave for SilverHawks, because you're at the point now where there's no more core members anymore.
Yeah.
Right? You're out of, as you said, like, well, there's still a copper kid to get, or there's still a this to get. And It's like now we're firmly in deep cuts, if you will.
Yeah.
And how many people are going to be there for deep cuts? And you never know. We go into those things going, I'm excited. I think these are really cool. I think people are going to be into it. But you never, ever know how it's really going to come off. And this one was like, we think it's cool. Obviously, we've gone through all the work to things and get them ready. But you just never know what the response is going to be. And I would say that the response to this wave has been stronger than the wave before it.
Wow.
Which is usually not what you see. So
yeah.
I'm pretty excited about how this is being received, because it just sets up the opportunity that we can continue to go forward. Not that SilverHawks was necessarily on the same wavelength of in danger, but as you get further along, you just don't know how many people want the deep cuts and how many people just want the SilverHawks.
Right. And to your point, I mean, I know that you've been hearing the positive feedback on this wave, as have I. To me, the next biggest conversation, though, that is like sparked from this is that, like, you know what? This is a really cool wave, but or also there are some really cool characters still to be done that are still kind of, you know, that they're kind of in this same, you know, strata of, you know, A-list, B-list, or whatever, never been done. But, you know, there's still some really cool ones that people are saying, okay, well, if we can get these guys, then, you know, hopefully there's a chance that we can get those, the other ones too, because there's, like I said, they're universe builders, a lot that have never had figures before, and, you know, fit in with kind of what the theme of this is at the same time too.
Yeah. I mean, do you have a list? Do you have your list? Let's get
of what's left, that would be a priority for me. I mean, for the SilverHawk, it would definitely be Moonstriker, because I think he's like the big one that's still, you know, out there to be done. But then, man, Yes Man, as, you know, Snake Guy, Poker Face, which is just kind of, you know, wild in terms of, like, you got this poker playing robot out in the middle of nowhere space that's a part of a mob. I don't know. It's just it fits in well. After that, I'd probably go to Time Stopper as far as like unique characters go. It's like that's another mob character out there, which would be cool. But I think those are probably my, if I was like, okay, here's my selfish, I don't really have to pay attention to how well something's going to sell wave, it would probably be that one.
Yeah. I think that, you know, I think that there's a couple in there that are fairly frequent in the request pile.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Yes Man, Poker Face, Moonstriker, those are all pretty up there for most everybody. Time Stopper is an interesting one. I think there's a couple other, you know, I don't know. There's a lot of, the thing is if you can go, there's so many that it can go on.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm really pumped on this. And Melodio is one that I've been trying to squeeze into a wave for a while, and she just ended up keep getting bumped.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad she's finally out. You know, she's kind of cuckoo.
Yeah, well, it's like, okay, well, it's kind of like
it totally plays into like, this is Gem and the Holograms, but in SilverHawks.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, okay, well, that's kind of weird, but it's like it can all go together. But she's also kind of like, you know, she's the counterpart now to Bluegrass. So, you know, that I think that's cool too. But yeah, you know, like you said, lots of cool characters too. And I mean, even, you know, considering some of the main characters like Quicksilver, I mean, it's been a while since he's come out. It's like, how do you think about him too, or some opportunities there? But it's like, I'm a unique character guy, and to the point, like Moonstriker, he's like Bluegrass to me. It's like he's got a really cool, like blue, teal, metallic-y color to him that's pretty striking. So yeah.
No, I think as a whole, this whole wave is. I'm just glad that people like it as much as we do.
Yeah. Well, and it's not only is it, you know, a certain, you know, tier of characters, but they're all so different looking and unique, and they offer new colors to the overall line too. I mean, getting this green in there is cool, and nobody in SilverHawks so far has built quite like hardware, which is cool. So I don't know. I love it for what it is. I'm really excited. Like I said, I think I'm more excited about this wave than as far as lineup goes ever, maybe. But it also, like we said, different characters in the future. But I look at this wave too, and it's like, okay, I'm looking at these guys, and I can already see like where are we going to go with like the color, the vintage toy versions and the vac metal versions of them, because it's gonna look cool with purple and green added to that too.
Yeah. No, I think it's I'm very happy that this line has this wave has had the response that it has, because it just means we get to stay in. So it just tells me that the road is longer, because this could be in any other case, I'm not saying it, this could be the wave that people don't respond to.
Yeah.
Because this
absolutely.
is the moment where you stop, like I said, you stop with the A-list characters, and now you're into fan-only characters,
right,
as opposed to, the core team and stuff like that. So, yeah, I've been super amped that this one has done well.
Well, and to your point, I know something that people, because I had mentioned the toy version as well. People brought up Prowler for hardware, and it's like, okay, cartoon version of Prowler would have to be like the cycle that we got, because he's huge. It's like a big pterodactyl, character, bird character, flying character, or whatever, for him. But it's like toy version. It's like, okay, then we could see it there. It's like, I understand why. Obviously, he wouldn't be with the cartoon version, but maybe some opportunities down the road.
Maybe so.
Yeah. Well, okay. So this series, though, you guys are calling a pre-sale.
Pre-sale, because what we did, I think. Last time we talked, I said, hey, look, the next wave of SilverHawks is just coming in stock.
Yep.
We're not going to do pre-order. But so what we're doing here is everybody kept saying, like, yo, I'm ready to buy my SilverHawks. Where are they?
Yeah.
They're still landing, I think, in January.
Wow.
I think, what does it say on the website? Does it say January?
Let's see. Let me X this out. It says early 2026. So
I mean, I literally believe that they deliver like first or second week of January.
Yeah.
Like, we're already making this, and then if the pre-sale numbers go up, we'll make additional units. So we're just basically saying it's basically like a pre-book or a pre-sale or it's not pre-order the way we normally do a pre-order.
Right.
So you're going to go ahead and buy them. You can get them now. You get the super pack, and in January they'll be in your hands.
Yeah.
So because so many people were asking about it, we went ahead, rather than making you wait till January, we went ahead and got them out now, because it also allows us to, like, okay, then we'll ship this to you in January, but then in February, I might be able to show you something that you've been waiting a really long time for, that gets pushed, that would have had to have been pushed out even longer.
And
there's this water stuff that's out.
I was going to say some new friends that are connected to these guys.
That people, like, we've been talking about, and it keeps getting bumped because the schedule gets bumped, and this was bumping the schedule yet again. So I was like, let's pull it in, and we can bring that one up so that all of our friends can be here together.
Yeah, and for those of us who might already have like a shelf like designated for some friends like that, they can all hang out together and be cool. So that sounds exciting, for sure. But I know you mentioned the last time that we talked that these were just going to come in stock, but now you guys have them up for pre-sale. I to your point about pre-orders with people, and it's like, hey, it'd be cool to have something that just goes in stock. But I think probably for like retail partners and what they want to be able to do to gauge like interest for that up front too, not just when stuff comes into stock too. So I think that's probably helpful for them too, to have kind of a pre-sale.
Yeah, in a bit. I mean, ultimately what this is, we went ahead and said, all right, this is the size we believe it is. Sometimes we don't know.
Right.
And doing the pre-order, allows us to gauge exactly how many we need to go, but the time it takes for it to come into stock then is so long.
Yeah.
So in this case, we're just like, we believe in SilverHawks. We believe this is the size of it. We're going to just put a flag in the ground, if you will, and we're just going to order them. And that's why it was going to be, as we talked about last month, originally, it was going to be, all right, and then they'll show up in January and you can buy them. But the overwhelming chatter was just like, I don't want to wait until January.
Yeah.
And so then we were like, okay, well, if we can still offer it in a way, it's not like a true pre-order because I'm not manufacturing. You're basically reserving your piece, and it may and you're getting the super pack, but it may also go away.
Right.
It may sell out. Who knows? We can show that up earlier so that I can also then move something else up into the cadence. So I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
somebody else will be annoyed that I did it, but
you can't win them all sometimes. But I don't know, man. With a series like this, it's awfully strong because it's funny. Robo texted me when the lineup was announced. He's like, "Oh, you've got to be excited," because he knows I don't shut up about like hardware and whatnot. I was like, "Yeah, but you know what? The SilverHawk for you is in this because this is the old grizzled one that's like you kids and whatnot, and that's the Uncle Robo SilverHawk." So it's like that's got to be the one for him at this point too. So yeah, I was glad for that.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I will just call it the RoboHawk.
Yeah, RoboHawk. Hey, that's actually kind of a cool name. So we'll take it. Well,
trademark.
Yeah, there we go. Well, this is really, really exciting. SilverHawks fans, you probably all already know about this, but if you don't, they are available for pre-order at the Super7.com website, and it's going to be a really, really fun wave, and hopefully with more to come.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely more to come.
Awesome. Well, something else then that is relatively new as far as announcement, but these are already made available. I don't have mine actually in hand yet, but I did want to talk about them and show them off because there's something that I'm excited for, and I know people are getting them in hand right now, are the Reaction Plus Universal Monster that you guys announced back at Toy Fair of this year. And I remember at Toy Fair, you guys were showing off a lot of cool Reaction Plus stuff, and I just remember I was like, you know what? I think the Universal Monsters are my favorite of all the Reaction Plus that you guys showed off, because it's like it works so well, and these are fun sculpts, and yeah, exciting, and just in time for Halloween.
Always just in time for Halloween, right? Never pass up a Halloween I can't make stuff for, right? No, this is the first O-rings that are out, that at least from us, that are a non-Hasbro property. So we've got G.I. Joe, then we have Micronauts, now we've got Universal Monsters, and I know we also showed off Back to the Future at Toy Fair too.
Yeah.
But it's really like, all right, how do we expand this world? Obviously, there are other things out there like Eagle Force that were sort of O-ring. You've got, the A-Team figures were O-ring.
Oh, yeah.
And then you've got I believe it's Estrella. Estrella? It was the company in Brazil.
South America, yeah.
Yep, that made the Knight Rider and everything else in O-ring. That was really cool.
Yeah.
So it just, let's give some love to all these other licenses like we've done in traditional Reaction, but let's bring them into the O-ring world. And it's an interesting sort of paradigm, though, because with Reaction, you're firmly in the zone of people that are like, I like this simplified, stylized look. This is what I grew up on. I feel very nostalgic. There's a small subset of people that come to it as new collectors that are like, I like this styling, even though I didn't grow up with it. With Reaction Plus, it's really interesting. At least some of the initial feedback has been, for a larger group of people, they like the articulation pattern.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not, it's like, I like the smaller figure that I can also pose.
Yes.
Posing is a big, and so it's been interesting to see, like, where I thought it would be much more limited to just people that grew up on O-ring type articulation,
Mhm.
that those people instead are like, no, 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 no. There's a whole group of people that are like, oh, these are really cool, small size multi-articulated figures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree, and the other part of it too is it's like, you know, it with this format, as you said, there's a lot of things that are out there that, you know, make up kind of the O-ring universe, stylistically and whatnot, and getting to add something like Universal Monsters to that, to kind of, you know, expand on a, you know, multiverse of characters and whatnot. It's like, come on, G.I. Joe can fight the creature now. That's cool.
That is cool. And the creature will totally win.
Yes, I agree. Even those, and that's the thing with Joe's. I mean, even if like Torpedo or someone goes to fight the creature and he loses, it's like Joe, they lose their water guy. It's like they're so specialized. It's like now nobody's going to beat the creature. So.
No, I'm. These were a lot of fun to do, and another thing too of like, until we showed them at Toy Fair, we realized that, but it was like, do people want things in O-ring that aren't G.I. Joe? I don't know. I think they do, but
Yeah.
I don't know until we bring them out. And then the response was really, really strong, obviously.
Well, speaking as someone who doesn't necessarily have nostalgia for the scale or style, simply because it was something that I didn't have when I was a kid, I do have to say I'm very fond of it as a collector now, and I have, you know, several like vintage Joes and some of the Reaction Plus Joes and whatnot. But it's like getting different properties in that style, it's just there's some that work for it very, very well, and I think Universal Monsters is definitely one of them. And it's like I can start making my list of things where, you know, that would also be true, but it's like, you know, you seeing these at Toy Fair, and then, you know, how as they're coming out now, I'm excited to get them. I'm excited to get more Universal Monsters, but it really is, you know, something that you guys probably do every day is like, let's think about other cool stuff that's going to work in this format so we can introduce that stuff into this, you know, style. And Back to the Future and others are on their way, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few others. We are doing some other stuff. I think, you know, the main focus is around G.I. Joe first and foremost.
Sure.
And there's some really exciting stuff for next year that we're working on for G.I. Joe that I think is gonna, same thing. Once again, like, I wasn't expecting that from you guys. Holy shit, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting. We've got a bunch of really cool stuff brewing for Micronauts. So those are still sort of your lead two in O-ring world, is what are we doing with G.I. Joe and Micronauts? And then, you know, moving into some other licenses as well. Back to the Future is a little later this year. Obviously, Universal makes no sense that we wouldn't have a Universal Wave 2, you know,
Sure.
at some, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, there's some obvious ones we got to make here. But, you know, in that, and I don't know if you were going to talk about it or not, but I think it was also super interesting. Like, Reaction Plus has been, there you go, received really well. But man, I knew it would happen, but when we dropped this wave, people were just like, I've been waiting my whole life for this Pythona and this Big Lob.
I was going to say Big Lob and Pythona are finally here, and getting unique characters like that for the first time in a format that someone has had for their entire life, that's a big deal, and it's really awesome.
Yeah, it is. And you know, it's also one of those that, you know, we know what I don't know, is it shooting fish in a barrel, what the easy answers are? But just because it's an easy answer doesn't mean you should do it, right?
Yeah.
In this case, it's the opposite, which is like it is such an obvious hole, but it's that's where we've lived our whole time with G.I. Joe, is how do we give you all the stuff you've never had before? And so this was one of those big moments that I felt like we really needed to come back to. And so, doing these whole movie waves has been really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, stylistically with the vinyl capes and whatnot is that's so much fun. And like you said, movie is cool because it gives a chance, like, of course, the obvious characters that have never been done, but there's also versions of characters that are out there too. So it's like, hey, Chuckles was in the G.I. Joe movie. I'm just saying, but
everybody knows that Chuckles was in the G.I. Joe movie. And they're like, you did these two guys. What about that guy?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it would be obviously very silly if we didn't make a Chuckles at some point, wouldn't it?
Hey, but for now we've got freaking Snake Eyes in a parka, right? So that's pretty amazing of itself.
And Big Lob, and this gets into that fine line of this stuff of like, had this come out back in the day, Big Lob would have been the same height as everybody else. But but the way you think about them now as an adult, even though it's like, no, he's got to be taller than everybody else.
Yeah.
Still O-ring, like you've got to play within that relative scale to some degree.
Yeah.
But Big Lob was just another one that was like, but definitely Pythona. That's the one that everybody's been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and then waiting and waiting.
Yeah.
Followed up by a little bit of waiting for.
Well,
we got to it a little bit, like same thing with Cobra Law, the Royal Guard before. When we did the Cobra Law Royal Guard, everybody, was like, oh, that same thing with Cold Slither.
Yeah.
Zartan Cold Slither. People are like, finally.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting for some characters like that didn't have vintage figures, or their appearances are isolated to a certain like one shot thing or whatever. It's like, I think sometimes time. Everybody says, oh, I've been waiting for this my entire life, but at the same time, I think time also does good for some of those characters, because it's like you have to wonder. It's like I don't know how these characters necessarily would have been received if they would have come out in the mid 80s, but now as people have lived with something their whole lives, and it's had an opportunity for some of these characters to be fleshed out in different ways, they become appealing to more people and whatnot. It's like the time is now, so it's good to be seeing them.
Yeah, I'm super pumped on this wave, and it's been really, really well received. And some of the stuff we've got planned for next year with G.I. Joe, I think, is really going to catch people by surprise and be really awesome.
Yeah. Well, this is definitely a fun graphic to talk through, because not only it's reminiscent of how you used to know new figures were coming or see them all together and whatnot, but that's a pretty eclectic lineup you got going there, Brian, which is pretty cool.
Well, and then not only that, I mean, that's 18 figures there. That's not including the either the
Tiger
Python Patrol or Tiger Force. Yeah. It is just like, if you would have told everybody, trying to think of like exactly when, but like, a year and a half ago, that, you'd get 20 plus G.I. Joe O-ring figures in the next year, I don't think anybody would have believed you. Had you told somebody you're going to get them a Fatal Fluffy and a Raymar and a Cold Slither, like and on my side, it's really awesome to be able to work on this stuff. So, not to, because people will read into it the wrong way or say something or whatever. I'm just happy that Hasbro has allowed us the right to play in their sandbox.
Yeah.
And I just want to put it out that way, that ultimately in the end, it's still them saying, yes, it's a good idea, we should do it. So, because there's somebody will be like, see, Hasbro, this is how it's done. It's like, no. they are doing all this other stuff on a scale that you can't even comprehend.
Yeah.
But them allowing somebody like us to say, also, that is important, and let's make sure that that happens, is really generous of them. And I'm glad that they allow us to do it.
Well, that speaks to the partnership. It speaks to the property. I mean, that's a big sandbox. It's like, G.I. Joe's been around for a long time, and a lot of stuff for Joe has been done, but it's like, it's still like one of the most exciting properties, I think, for me going right now, because of the ability to have so many different types of things and different characters that have never had their chance and whatnot in one format or another, depending on what your preference is. I think back to like 5 or 6 years ago, where there was just like, what about Joe? What about Joe? There was not a whole lot going on out there, and now it's a good time.
It's a great time to be a G.I. Joe collector.
Yeah,
that is for sure.
Yeah. Well, those are the definite big pieces that I wanted to touch on today. But I have a feeling that you probably got some things that you want to.
What do we want to talk about? I mean, there are some stuff. There's some cool stuff. Later this month, October 31st. Maybe not. Day. It's not for a Halloween release, but for a different release. But there's a really cool figure coming out on the 31st. I think we just announced, actually today. It's Friday. We announced Dr. Funkenstein, George Clinton.
Yes.
That one for me is oh man, I love that we got to make that figure and like really go back to those early Funkadelic days. And that's the clones of Dr. Funkenstein. I mean, that outfit is so close to Kiss, but yet so not like Kiss at the same time. And I mean, that is so crazy out there. And you're just like, I want to live in that wacky world of P-Funk all the time. So I love that figure that we got to make. I'm really excited about that. And
you announced Snoopy Peanuts reaction too. And after Spike, which you guys put out a long time ago, #1 on my list was Joe Cool. So I was definitely glad to see him as well.
Yeah, and Peanuts is another one that just, that fan base is there, and it's slow and steady, and there's so many cool characters I realize people are like, there's only like 8, but it's like there's so many versions of each character, and as the illustration style changed over the years, like I love that we're getting into the weeds on that, but there's just a lot of really exciting stuff, and maybe I'm
New Sesame Street too. New Sesame Street reaction.
Yeah. Two new Sesame Streets right now. There's some other Sesame Streets in the works.
All right.
But yeah, it's like, it's really feeling like, because I'm scripting out a lot of stuff that's going to be happening in fall of 26 and into 27 right now. There's just a lot more openness and freedom, not only from the licensor side, because they generally give us a lot of rope, but on retailer side. And that's a key difference, like how much having a retailer have that confidence in you, in bringing in stuff that's a little bit further afield, and being excited by it is really cool, because the moment you can bring it in and it sells well, then it opens up the chance to bring in even more stuff. Because so like you guys, I'm saying you guys, the general listening public at this point that's made it 4 hours into the soliloquy, when you're sitting there, you're going, why isn't this on shelf? Or I wish this wasn't here, or lamenting peg warmers or anything else like that. It's like you got to prove this works to get to the next thing, to prove it works, to opening up that aperture at Target and Walmart is difficult, because it is a ruthless exercise of how many units are you moving per week.
Prove it.
over and over again. You don't get any like, well, it was a soft week, or it doesn't matter. But the moment you can start proving that it works with some unexpected stuff, you know, they start to open up the aperture a little bit. And so as we talk about some moments in next year, you know, not things that will be there all year long, but some moments in next year where we can really sort of like put in some, what I think is more fun and playful items in there. It's going to be really interesting to see, because if that works, then the follow-up is like, okay, well, you got to sequelize that. And so that's really interesting as we look at some of this stuff of like, man, like we're getting the chance to step out of the box of just, here's the only thing that can fit on this shelf and this peg. And as we step out of that box a little bit, there's going to be a couple opportunities, especially in the back half of next year, where some stuff's going to show up on shelf that you might not normally see. And if that stuff shows up on the shelf with a different perspective, and does well, it allows that opportunity to then come around again. And I think for toy collectors, that's where, if you're not, especially if you're not a person that buys on the internet, like if you want to go to the store and find it, like what you're going to find in the store is generally the most conservative view of what the toy collecting industry looks like. And what you go online is find all the permutations and expressions of toys in every format that can't survive at that level.
Right.
So I'm just really excited that we can probably put some wacky stuff out, not wacky, but some more fun stuff out there at the end of next year, because we're at least being given the opportunity to see if it will succeed. So that's fun. That's fun.
Well, hopefully in the next, over the next several months, and as we get into those timeframes, we're going to be learning all about that. But that sounds exciting, even not really having any idea as to what those things could be. But the opportunity is definitely exciting.
I think it just kind of comes back to the play of like, when the buyers start to have trust in your brand and what you bring to the table, then they start having more trust in getting out of sort of their comfort zone, which is generally where the toy collector gets more excited. Show me something you don't have.
Right.
And so the more I can show you something that you weren't expecting or that you don't have, and you can walk into the store and buy it, versus like, you don't have this, but I need you to order it online. You know, that experience level is, I think, just more exciting for everybody.
Well, and to maintain that type of long-term relationship where those types of things are possible, there's a lot that goes into that, just historically and from a partnership standpoint. It's a lot.
You have no idea.
Preaching to the choir about things that I don't even know about. So yeah, absolutely. Well, that's extremely exciting, and I can't wait to eventually chat in more detail about those things. But for now, everyone, here's your chance. If you do not have Tiamat,
there we go. We're bringing the sales pitch.
Available.
There we go. All right,
online.
You too can own yourself a Tiamat.
You can.
Easy payment installment. Actually, I think you can do payment plans. But
you
can go to super7.com right now and pick up your Tiamat.
And while you're there, new SilverHawks are up for pre-sale. There's Universal Monster Reaction Plus. There's new G.I. Joe Reaction Plus. All kinds of fun stuff for right now, too. So
right now, this is a Christmas present to yourself. You should start in October.
Hey, I start January 1st. So if we're going to talk like that. So.
Everybody starts in January 1st because it was like, all right, I bought everything for everybody else now. Now it's time for me.
Well, as always, Brian, thanks for being generous with your time on a First Friday, an actual
on a legit First Friday, which I don't think we've done since probably the first time we did it.
I know, and it's crazy that it's like, I guess we'll talk a bit in November. Holy shit, it's going to already be November, but we'll do it then too. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We'll catch you next time, everybody.